is on my list for next year.
You want to become a top contributor next year?
Yeah, I would very much like to be so.
How long does that
I'll
take?
do my best. Nina's daily schedule made simple. That
I
was a
got
big challenge.
27 10-minute sessions I can do in a day.
When you engage and commit to what you love, that works immediately, instantly.
I'm going to reduce, not my interest, but I think I'm going to reduce the number. That number of 27 is probably going to be reduced to about
I'm going
10.
to work about neutrality all the time. Hi, Alex.
Hey,
Hi.
Alex.
Hi.
He's sideways, but he's here.
Okay. No, I'm the right way.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. So what you're saying is when you go to Facebook that you, I want you to say that again. I want to hear it.
I know that. So I go to incognito, look the article I wrote on Facebook, and it's not there because unless I register to go inside the Facebook castle, I cannot read it. So I don't think it's fair for the neutral conversation we can now have. What I'm interested to talk across cultures, across borders, at least a little, keep it connected. And even if we are very different, we can always learn more stuff.
Yeah, you're talking
contribute.
About, you're talking really about the Facebook algorithm and the way that they display what it is that you're interested in and what people are interested in what you're doing and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was actually a discussion. I saw a thing that someone wrote yesterday about that very thing, that they had closed down their Facebook account in November, but they didn't actually close it. They just hadn't logged into it since November. And how it had changed the stuff that they did. It really depends. Facebook's like all social media is really, it's driving so much information and disinformation that
misinformation.
Like,
okay, I will just tell you one small example and give the word further for the conversation. I really urge you to use collections.
Challenge a bit the train of thought, because I believe that part of why people are not logging in Facebook, for example, or currently we're talking about organizing a huge amount of information which is deluging us. And it's not about organizing that information. We actually need to go a little bit deeper in the things that we want to go deeper into. And because we're being deluged with a lot of information, we don't go behind the headlines. I call this the headline effect or the headline society. And that's why, for example, you have a new president in the States. That's why the UK went into Brexit, because people don't go behind the headlines. They don't go into the detail of some of the issues that are being discussed. They jump from headline to headline without going and critically analyzing the information, and the net is exacerbating the problem. And I believe that if we're going to shape the way the information is being used, we need to enable not collecting and ordering all the information, but actually prompting or enabling people to go deeper behind just the headline. Because currently the knee-jerk reaction is you read a headline, and because you're afraid that you might miss the next headline, you go on to the next one and to the next one without going in depth and critically analyzing the information. That's what the current state of affairs is leading to. That's why people are not logging into Facebook, because they feel they're overburdened with the amount of information which they can't handle.
But you're incorrect about one thing. Yeah. And that is that people are logging into Facebook a lot. When I said that this guy had logged out, Facebook still is tremendous. When you get 1 billion or more people logging in a day, so it's impossible it's not logical to argue a point that people aren't logging into Facebook, because they are. in masses every day. So what you have to figure out is, and Facebook's trying to do it because of that fake news thing. You know, they brought some of that into the forefront. But you know, even then, you've got people who are making decisions about what fake news is, who are that's based off prejudices, right? I mean, they're biased already. When they may not, you know, tag or say something is actual news because of a bias that they have. So it's going to be a really, I think that it's going to get better as people begin to stay away from social media more.
Yeah,
right?
I think
And
it's
only
a
use
trend.
it, and only use it to communicate, you know, the stuff that they want to, and with the people that they want to, you know, versus, you know, having who cares? I mean, Nina can tell you that for me, I was always, I believed in building communities. I believed in doing that kind of stuff, but I've always been more of a one-to-one person, period. You know, I just have never, I could really care less if there was a gazillion followers on something, because the only value that really brought was you could affect a lot of people in positive and negative ways, right?
Yep.
And that's a power that, you know, I don't know that I have the wisdom to yield. So you have to know what you kind of have to know that, right? That kind of stuff, that kind of power you have to have an understanding and a wisdom to be able to yield that power. And I may be getting closer to it, but at the time, or up until this point, it's been more like, you know, because I'm not hot-headed, but I certainly don't take a lot. You know, I'm not going to just take a lot of junk from people. But you know, you bring out, I think we're both on the same page. I think all three of us are on the same page on that. Is that the disinformation, you're not going to be able to stop it. You're just not, because there's those people that are going to do that. So how do you sort through that and be able to assimilate the real stuff, right?
Yeah, so stay focused. I will give you an overview what we talked before you came, Alex. So I did the Joy commitment last year, and it worked. I had my daily schedule made simple, really walked all the steps to this, and it was a big success for me. I urge now that everybody who is watching now or later take some use Google Plus tool like Google Collections, make simple things. And I had a lot of people helping me on the road. I wouldn't name because I will forget someone. But really for neutrality, I want to work in 2017. I'm committed to becoming a top contributor. And I'm happy to do that because the help community is giving me the space to stay neutral while working. This is important for me because I walk the words. I find science in every word I hear. I don't want to use too many words, just a few. And Stan Bush is more balanced because he committed to balance. And now tell me, how did sharing work for you? Because I was telling the story in your absence.
Yeah, well, I believe I've made great strides in improving my sharing, but I still have a way to go. I don't think I'll ever reach the ultimate goal, but every step I take closer is something which is a reason for me to celebrate. So one of the things that if I think looking forward, what I need to do a little bit more is adapt the sharing with the information overload, which means for me, there's no information overload, there's filter failure. So it's not about the amount of information, it's about selecting the appropriate amount of information and only sharing that which is appropriate or which you believe you're standing behind. So sharing is a responsibility, and and it needs appropriately in order for a person to become a kind of a key sharer. They need to filter the information they're sharing. So indiscriminate sharing for sharing self sake is not the true way of doing things. So I would add as an additional comment for this year that I need to be better at filtering, not only at sharing, but at filtering what I'm sharing.
You know what's
Great.
interesting is that when we because that subject of disinformation and things like that and sharing, I went over a while and looked at Nina because I wanted to find out what she was broadcasting on Facebook, and I went over and I saw this very post of hers that has Theodora in it. It says personal branding badges, and here's the thing is that when you're talking about tagging and you're talking about disinformation, this kind of statement is contradictory to that outcome, because it says the lesser regulations on the web of people is the better of the free exchange of ideas, right? But the lesser regulations on those ideas means that the more disinformation that's put out there. And so it's going to have to be, you got to figure out a balance on it, you know?
Well, it's not only about the balance, it's about the appropriate regulation. So when we talk about regulation, we see it as either all good or all bad. Ultimately, both good and bad, depending on the type of regulation. Our bodies, I always revert to biology and to medicine because that's where I've learned most of what I am. But in biology and in medicine, our bodies exist because they're regulated by natural laws and interactions internally. Those interactions are leading to improved outcomes. That's good regulation. So regulation, the fact that something is regulated is not necessarily bad, as long as the regulation leads to a beneficial, positive outcome. So it's not about more regulation is bad. It's not. It needs to be appropriate. So regulation needs to be appropriate to the type of activity we are engaged in. For example, regulating the amount of information could be a bad thing if it's done inappropriately, but it could be a great thing if done appropriately, because then if we regulate the amount of information, we will only get that information which is appropriate for a positive outcome. So regulation in itself should not be branded as something necessarily bad.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily good either. You
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely, yeah.
That's what. Yeah, we were talking on again on collections that you shouldn't post like a machine or production line. Just have one article written or read and reviewed, or 2 or 3 per day, not more, because I'm reading everything. So if Harvard Business Review is posting every half an hour, I cannot read everything. I start deleting them. So it's also the focus, but spread like normally for human being.
I have a favorite slide which I share very frequently, which is the amount of medical information. It's very easy to prove the amount of medical information. You go into the National Library of Medicine, the US National Library of Medicine, and you just put a filter from the 1st of January to the 31st of December for any 1 year, and you can see the amount of journal articles that are indexed there. Since 2014, the amount of articles, medical articles published and referenced in the National Library of Medicine exceeds 1 million per year since 2014. If we take 100 medical specialties, which are the different medical specialties, that means 100,000 articles per year per medical specialty, which means more than 300 articles per day. Nobody can read that amount of information unless we filter it for relevance and filter it for appropriateness. And those are two things, because it might be relevant but not appropriate, and it might be appropriate but not relevant. So I think we need to understand how to better deal with the information overload and every time we think or talk about information overload, we should be thinking filter failure.
So we going to ping people for to say shut up on the net.
Well, no, because that would be inappropriate regulation. They might have something very relevant to say, but if we filter it for relevance and appropriateness, that would be appropriate regulation because we will get the signal through. We are getting to a level where we can use artificial intelligence instead of natural stupidity. So
Can you explain how the body feels in balance? What's the interaction? Because I talked about joy, but this year I had a surprise party from Annie, and I froze from joy, which was shocking to me because it's the same as if from stress and fear. It's the same feeling. You are not in your body, you're somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if joy and happiness overlap 100%, but a balanced person, that's where, I mean, if we look at the ancient Indian or Chinese medical activities, and I mean, modern medicine is about 250, 300 years old. Chinese medicine is 2,000 years old. There's a lot of wisdom in Chinese medicine. It might not be the best, but it is different and complementary to modern medicine. And the Chinese physicians, they, as well as, for example, the Buddhists and the Indians, they have nirvana and achieving a state of pure happiness. Part of that is rebalancing the spirit and rebalancing the intellectual forces in your head. And information overload is actually getting into the way of doing that. So I think that people who are overloaded with information actually can be less happy than people who are balanced with the right amount of appropriate information. So one way of achieving happiness, both on a personal level and also on a social or a networked level, is to balance the amount of relevant and appropriate information, because we are all scared that we might miss an important bit of information, which is why we go through all the information. That should not be the knee-jerk reaction. We should have a society, a group, a network of people, each of whom kind of caters or cares for a specific segment of information. And because we are in a network, we exchange between us the relevant elements, the relevant bits of that, without overloading the network with information. And we should be relying on each other's critical thinking and filtering skills to do that.
Yeah, so I know already that I will be digging my garden next year, because that's what the ancient proverbs in Bulgaria say. You go and dig your garden. That's what you can contribute. And Stan, what about you? Well, I didn't hear about your commitment 2017. Since it's the most serious, I think we can wrap up with your commitment for next year.
Well, you said a couple of things. One is that fear, that what the term that they're using now, Alex, and you may have heard it called, is the FOMO effect, which is the fear of missing out, right? Everybody's got that fear of missing out, so you got to deal with that. And I'm gonna continue to work toward more balance. That's it, and what Alex, what I realized, what I thought about a while ago, when it comes to balance and how you're, appropriate versus, relevance, is that, the body does exactly that. I mean, it does it naturally, is that the body is not designed to try to die. That's not what its purpose is. It's not, its purpose is to try to make sure that, you stay in a healthy state, and so that's why it does what it does. Sometimes, even though you don't understand why it did that, that's why it did that. It's because that's what its job is to keep you in that state. So it's going to be interesting. It gave a different level for me to think about, from a balance standpoint, is that sometimes it may be something that, you don't necessarily want to do, but I don't want to have to leave here, but I have my alarm, my silent. That's what different. That's one of the different things that I have this year, Nina, is I have silent alarms. I don't have the. I still got my I still got my pagers and stuff like that going on. I still use those a lot, but they don't beep as much as they used to, because
Good.
I'm not driven by that. I have more. I use those more in the garden. I use those to go pick up pecans, and I use those to go cut the grass and make a game out of cutting the grass in 10 minutes, and those kind of things. Can I get that done in this much time? And working on like we said earlier, just projects that I can get finished in 10 minutes. But that's really it, is to go through that list of those 27 things that I have in that 10 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to classify those. Are they relevant, and are they appropriate? Like, is it appropriate for me to go out and study something that has no relevance to me? Right? Not really. Why am I trying to study it just so that I can know something about it? Nah, I'm done. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I think Alex has a big privilege because he's going to filter through Victoria, his granddaughter,
Yeah.
and it would be the best thing that one can do. It is very made easy.
When you're engaged with a future, which is a small child, you're actually thinking of how you can healthily and balanced looking forward. So it gives you quite a lot of things to think about, and how to achieve many of those things. So it will be a really nice year looking ahead.
And balance for I know that you spend a lot of time with your grandson, and it could be the same experience. Just I haven't heard what you do to contribute to yourself from spending time with Gabriel.
Oh, your granddaughter's name is Gabriel?
No, Victoria.
No, it's Victoria.
Victoria. Oh, were you asking me about Gabriel?
Yeah.
Oh, I was listening. I was thinking, is she talking? I thought she was talking to Alex about hitting the balance with, because I knew that you had come back over to. We talked about it earlier. You'd come back over there now because you have grandkids and stuff over there.
Yeah.
The way I'm going to balance that working with Gabriel is it's always appropriate and relevant to work with.
Yep.
Always, regardless of what anybody else thinks about that. It's always appropriate and relevant. And I have to get out of here, but I will tell you, peace, love, and understanding as always, right? And I'll see you guys down the road. I got something I've got to get to right now.
Yeah, we kept it longer. We didn't even tell when we are going to finish, because it's something we do once in the year. So thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. I'm happy I didn't control that. I thought last year I controlled everything about this conversation, and when I looked at it, oh my God, how did you not stop me?
Well, it wasn't appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Have a great year in balance.
I'll see you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I'm trying to remember how to I think
how to stop that thing from the red. See you. Have a great year, everybody, in balance.
Bye-bye.